What's going on, KW friends? Today we're going to talk about opportunities and how to create one. So we're actually going to create an opportunity today, and we're going to do it from start to finish. And I just want to make sure you guys understand there's one caveat. When you're going to start opportunities or create an opportunity, I should say, you must have a contact in your database. This contact has to already be created. At this point in time, you cannot create the contact while creating an opportunity. So just a caveat, make sure that you guys know that up front. And if you're working converting leads and stuff like that, well, that is easy, right? Because leads should be in your database. So let's go ahead and create an opportunity here. So if you go to the right side, and actually, if you are part of a team or in a team, you got to make sure that you're under the right account. And I don't want to create anything under my team, so I'm going to go ahead and actually, I will leave it under the team, to tell you the truth. I'll just leave it like that. But if you, depending on how your team's set up, you could choose which account to create it on. So depending on who you're with. So it's either, like for me, it will be either J&D or myself. So let's go ahead and create an opportunity. The first thing that's going to pop up, obviously, is your market center. And that should be hard-coded into your main or your primary market center. If you are a member of multiple market centers, such as myself, you will have to choose which market center this opportunity belongs to. You have to do it up front. Once you click create opportunity, there is no way for us to move that at this point. So if you create it under the wrong market center, you will have to redo the opportunity again. And the same lies for the opportunity type. So for example, if I'm creating a listing opportunity, that's what's defaulted, then that's perfectly fine. But remember, if you're working with a buyer or with a landlord, which is a rental listing, those are different than regular listings. So make sure that you are picking the right one. So it's either a listing opportunity, a buyer opportunity, a landlord or tenant opportunity. Make sure you pick the right one. If you create it under the wrong type of opportunity, you will have to recreate it at this point. There's no way to move it from one type to another at this point in time. I am the owner. However, because I am part of a team in this case, part of J&D, you can drop down and I could choose who's the owner. So in my case, in my team, there's two rainmakers. So I could choose either myself or the owner, or my co-rainmaker is the owner of the opportunity. And the second thing is my seller, right? So I'm going to create this is for test. Oh, you know what? I don't have this client under the team. Let's take the team out. Yeah, my test clients are under my personal account. So let's see how that works. Yep, there we go. Okay, so test client. Sorry about that. And test 2. There we go. So these are my seller and my co-seller. Now, I'm actually happy this happened because ever since just prior to recording this video that I'm recording right now, and they teamified the accounts, which means that the team's database is separated from your personal database. So depending on where those contacts are, you have to make sure they're under the right account. So if the contacts you're doing the opportunity for belong in a team, or the opportunity is part of the team, you got to make sure those contacts are in that database. And there's a whole video on that, so that you can understand what I'm talking about that. So as we've discussed in that video on Teams, you will also see that here. So as I had to remove the team in order to see my test clients, because those are under my personal account. I don't do test stuff in my team account. Then it defaults to the name. The opportunity name defaults to the name of the client. It's usually the last name that it defaults to, but because my test client has just one name and not a last name, it defaulted to test. In a listing, the opportunity, you will already know the proper name of the opportunity because you know the property address that you're listing. So if I already know that I did a CMA for 123 Main Street in, say, Chicago, then that would be the name of the opportunity. If I was doing a buyer opportunity, once my buyer picks a property, I will have to edit the opportunity name to put the address in there. It is imperative that your opportunity has the address in the name. And the reason for that is when you are having issues or need to get paid or have questions about a particular one as far as documents or something happening with it, it is easier for the market center compliance team to be able to look it up by address. because sometimes we create a lot of opportunities for a client, and they're all Diaz or Dolgopolsky or Jensen, right? So you don't want to do it that way, because then we will know which one it is. If you tell us that it's 123 Main Street in Chicago, then it's a lot easier to find. So make sure that the property address is the proper name and the final name to the opportunity, so that we're able to help you when you need help. The next thing that you're going to need, so the tags are optional. You don't need a tag. If you work with a particular seller, so like if you have an investor, or maybe let's say Investor LLC, it's like one of the main investors you do, you might want to track how many listings that investor is actually giving you, if you have some kind of partnership with them. So you might want to tag those that way. So when you run reports at the end of the year, you can actually sort by investment LLC. That's just an example. If you have an idea of when you might close, right now, as a recording of this video, market time is about 24 to 48 hours on a listing. So I could easily gauge that I could probably close this in the next, 60 days. I'll say that by February 5th, I feel pretty good that by February 5th it'll be closed, if not before then. And then obviously the price, you should know what price you are going to be listing at, because you did the CMA, right? So let's say that I did an estimated, let's say $350,000. And my commission rate. This portion is very important. Commission rate is the rate that you are paying yourself, what you are expecting to receive, right? So what I mean by that is, if I take a listing, I charge 6%, for example, then how much am I keeping that for myself, and how much is my co-op for the buyer agent, right? So let's say that if I did it 50-50, right, it'll be 3% to me, 3% to the co-op agent. In that case, I would put 3% here, because that's what I'm getting paid, and that's all that I'm interested in. The stage, or the phase in the stage, is important if you're going to be using opportunities consistently and how they're supposed to be used. And a cultivate stage is when you call on one of your leads or one of your contacts on your quarterly call, and he or she says, you know what, Ubaldo, yeah, I'm thinking about selling, but I'm not going to be selling probably for the next 3 to 4 months. I'm going to cultivate them. The stage then says, well, if he's going to list in the next 3 to 4 months, he's pretty hot. Because if he tells me 3 to 6 months, he probably wants to sell within the next 30 to 60 days. He's just on the fence, right? It's my job to convert him. So I'm going to put that as hot. And then cultivate, right? And then, of course, each phase has different stages. So there's an appointment stage. There's an active stage. Let's say that I actually had an appointment with him, and he actually kept his appointment, because that means that I actually made the appointment, I scheduled it, and I actually met with him, right? So I'm at that stage. Now he's just debating whether he wants to actually list with me or not. Hopefully, if you go to the appointment and they kept it, you didn't leave that house until you actually had a signed listing agreement. But if that's not the case, then you would leave it as a kept. But let's say you're fortunate enough and you actually left with the listing agreement signed, then you would move that to active. Now, every state is different. I know that we have 3 market centers in 3 different states that I work with. So every state will be different. Now, I personally, when I'm doing business in Illinois, these are the stages based on what I do here in Illinois. So the PNL, the private network listing, is a stage in our MLS system. It's like a coming soon phase where I put it in there, but it's not quite active yet. But I'm able to publish and market the property for sale and still be compliant with state law and marketing guidelines with our MLS. So a PNL, that means that that's the stage that I'm in. But maybe I'm at the stage where I'm just waiting for photos and for them to clean it, right? And maybe I'm already showing it and then in negotiations, right? So let's leave it at photo and clean for right now. And let's click create. Okay. At this point, this is all I have for the opportunity, right? The market center. Now, this is already a created opportunity, so I won't be able to change the market center anymore. I also will not be able to change the owner anymore. The rest of the stuff I could change. Like if I actually wanted to fill all this information in. Now remember, the more information you put in here, the better your reporting is gonna be. So when you run reports, after, let's say after Q1, you want to see like what your conversion rates and stuff are like that. The more information you put in here, the better, right? Did you schedule your appointment? When was the appointment? Did you win or not win the agreement? Contract date and close date, so like you could see everything that's going on. These two dates will be mandatory when you get to the commission stage. When you're just creating the opportunity, they're not required, but when you close, you will be required to fill those in. The property address, again, if you know the property address because you are listed, and if I'm going to actually find one, I actually have to put it in here. A valid address. You see, once I started typing the address, I automatically found the address, and I click save, and you will see that the property address filled in. And it also filled in up here. I like to do it ahead of time, even before I list it, because if you don't do it ahead of time, when you go to create your commission and you're trying to get paid and you haven't done this, it will not let you do it because it has to be tied to a listing, to a property. So you got to make sure that's in there, okay? So you got all this stuff in here. This is what you need, and you're good to go. The opportunity is made. So what's next? The next thing is to create documents. Create the documents necessary for the listing, or the buyer agreement, or the listing agreement for the landlord for the rental property, or the lease agreement for the renter. So in this case, it's a listing. So I'm going to go to documents. Depending on your state, in this case, this particular opportunity is being created in Illinois Market Center. So the compliance checklist is based on the Illinois compliance checklist in that market center. So you will see that these are the required documents for the listing in Illinois. Now, the one thing that you need to just take note of, this is the only thing we will require from you. I know there's a lot of other documents you might have your buyer sign or you may receive from your seller or stuff like that. We don't want those. Those are not required by the state for us to have on file. This is the only thing we require for a listing. If you're going to list it on a private network and not going to publish it on the MLS right away, we need a signed agreement. There is a form in the MLS for that. So make sure you get it signed and add it here. A copy or PDF printout of your MLS. Showing that it was listed properly and timely based on the listing agreement. Your listing agreement executed by not only yourself and the seller, but also by your managing broker. Make sure you get that signed before you upload it, or the managing broker will reject the file and you won't get paid. Then, of course, you need the residential disclosure. And the next one is conditional. So you'll see here, conditionally required. It is only required if the property you're selling was built prior to 1978. If it was built after 1978, you don't have to worry about this particular form. However, if based on the MLS sheet and public record, it shows that this property was built prior to 1978 and you don't have one included, your file will get rejected. So make sure that you pay attention to the notes. And then obviously if you have a city of Chicago property, we have a special requirement for that thanks to the city. And then if you have a listing modification, which means that the seller asks you to do something, whether it's reduce the price, maybe they want to modify the listing agreement and extend the listing or cancel the listing, that will go in here. And you need to submit. Once you have your documents up, you need to submit them to the MC, and the compliance manager or managing broker or MCA will either approve or disapprove the file, and there will be notes telling you why it was approved or disapproved. Same thing on the contract. On the contract, you will have all the required forms. And you can see there's only a few that you need. Copy of earnest money if it's a listing. We need a copy of that earnest deposit. And then the disclosures and all that good stuff is in here. And then once you close, we need a commission statement and a settlement statement, right? This is all you need. Where do you get all these forms? Well, I'm glad you asked. The forms are found in Docusign. And if you properly linked your Docusign account that was provided to you at sign up, you will simply see this button here. Now, I know that there are some of you that are still using Dotloop or prefer to use Dotloop over Docusign. And if you have a Dotloop account, you can connect that through here. So you'll be able to, if you click the drop-down arrow, you will be able to select either Dotloop or Docusign. I use Docusign. So what did I click on? So, I clicked on timeline, sorry. Let me go back to documents. So if I click on start a transaction, it's going to take me to Docusign, right? So I'm going to go to Docusign. And because I'm not currently logged in, I haven't logged in a couple hours, it's going to require me to log in. So there's my email. There are my passwords already saved. Now what it's doing is actually generating a room for me for that particular transaction. And what it's doing is also linking the opportunity to Docusign, which means that once I create the documents in Docusign, I could import them right into Command without having to download or upload anything, because the rooms and Docusigns are connected. In order for that to work though, the opportunity needs to start in Command. The transaction needs to start in Command. You cannot start in Docusign and then backtrack and try to connect it to an opportunity. It won't work that way. It has to come from Command into Docusign. Once the room is created though, you could go straight into Docusign and work in that room whenever you want to. And there's other videos that will talk to you about Docusign specifically. But what happens? So if you verified your NRDS number, and there's a Docusign training that will show you how to do that if you have not done so. If not, reach out to us. Our information is at the bottom of this video, and it's also available through your market center. So reach out to your MCA, or you could reach out to me directly if you have my contact info. But what I'll do is that you'll click this big blue add button, and there's Docusign forms. And all of your market centers have the libraries already imported. So if I go in here and I'm going to select from the library, I'm going to select from the state. Here's from the state. And then I'm going to select the residential property disclosure, which is right here. Now before I leave, I'm also going to look for my radon form, which is here. Now make sure that you understand that there's two in Illinois. One's for a lease and one's for a sale. Make sure you're selecting the one for sale, not for a lease, or else you're going to have to do it. And then I'm going to select the let-based disclosure. And the same thing, there's one for renters and one for sales. So make sure you know which one you're doing. And I'm going to add them. These are all the Illinois specific forms. So I could add them all at one time. Once I add the 3 specific disclosures required by the state of Illinois, then I can add also my listing agreement that's provided by the MLS that we use to list our property. Now there is a listing agreement specifically through each MLS, so make sure you choose the right library. All right, so here's part of Main Street in Illinois. So Illinois, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to say exclusive. And that just narrowed it down. So here it is, residential exclusive right to sell marketing agreement. And I'm going to go ahead and add that. And all my forms are in here. So once I add all my forms, I could actually fill them out, and I could actually send them to my client for e-signatures. The nice thing about this is that when they come back and they're signed, if I'm in Command, I can easily attach these. So I could go in here and say, and I'm going to use the top button up here because it's easier this way. I'm going to say attach multiple items because all these came back at the same time, right? So the listing agreement. And that's not what I wanted to do. Cancel. Docusign. Don't do what I did, right? Make sure that up here on the top, you select Docusign because those are in Docusign. So I'm going to say listing agreement. Here it is. And then the personal injury property disclosure. Now, technically, the ones that you're going to attach here are the ones that are actually signed, right? But I'm just showing you how easy it is because these forms are already they're already in Docusign. I could just click them right here. So when my client signs them, and I could look for the ones that say signed, I could just come in here and just do that, and then click attach. And you'll see all my forms are attached. There's no downloading, there's no uploading. And then I will submit to the MC for the review. And if I was to submit this one, I will get rejected because none of these are signed and or filled out. So just know that you will get those rejected if they're not done correctly. And you will get a note and telling you why. Okay, so that's opportunities in a nutshell. That's how you create one. That's how you get documents in there. Remember, it is imperative that you name your opportunity correctly. The property address is the best way for us to help you. When you're calling us because you want to know why you haven't gotten paid, or why your opportunity hasn't been approved, or you're having issues in general, the only way we can help you is for us to be able to find the opportunity, and the quickest way to find it is a property address. Or you could contact us, and you're going to have to give us this big, long number right here, and you don't want to do that. So let's go ahead. Any questions you guys have, let us know. This is the basics of opportunities, and if you need any help with anything, always feel free to reach out to us. Our contact info is scrolling at the bottom of this video the whole time. And also, you can always reach out to your MCA, TL, or managing broker, or productivity coach with questions, and feel free, if they can't help you, they will put you in contact with somebody in the tech department to be able to help you right away. Until next time, take care, guys.